Welcome to Dr. Jordan Peterson, Warning of Nazism, Part 1. My name is Troy Parfit, and I'm the author of The Devil and His Due, How Jordan Peterson Plagiarizes Adolf Hitler. If you know anything about Dr. Jordan Peterson, you're likely aware that he often claims to be warning people against the resurgence of totalitarianism, namely communism and Nazism. He has suggested that one reason he counsels his followers, mainly young men, to embrace individualism and personal responsibility and to shun collectivism is so they don't find themselves being tempted to sign up with the far right. During an interview with the CBC's Wendy Mesley, Peterson said that he had received hundreds, perhaps thousands, take your pick, of letters from people saying that his advice rescued them from the jaws of the radical right. As he explained, "I'm no fan of the radical right. I've been lecturing about the dangers of Nazi totalitarianism, for example, for almost 3 decades. It's been a major part of my life's work to inoculate people against the attraction of that sort of thing." If that was the case, Mesley wanted to know, why did Peterson do interviews with the far-right rebel media? The professor answered testily, "You don't think we should talk to people on the right?" Mesley then showed Peterson a picture of himself and 2 of his fans posing with a flag bearing the likeness of Pepe the Frog. One of his supporters was wearing a Make America Great Again hat and giving the OK sign, which the Anti-Defamation League has identified as a hate symbol. The ADL has also identified Pepe the Frog as a hate symbol. The white supremacist Richard Spencer has worn a Pepe the Frog pin because Pepe, whose slogan is "Feels Good Man," has been appropriated by the far right. In one meme, he's sporting a Hitlerite mustache and saying, "Kill Jews, man." In other images, he's dressed as an SS officer administering gas to a Jewish man. He's also standing in front of a fiery oven at a death camp crematorium and grinning in front of Auschwitz, backdropped by smoke wafting from a chimney. Mesley wanted to know why Peterson would pose for such a photo. The clinical psychologist answered by cycling through a list of excuses and denials. Pepe wasn't a hate symbol, he said. Rather, he was being used by young men in a, quote, deeply satirical way. He also suggested that the circulation of the photo was the doing of the pernicious left, which, quote, sees all sorts of things as hate symbols. Peterson tried to exonerate himself by saying he'd posed for thousands of pictures and insinuated he didn't realize the banner he was standing behind was a Pepe flag. "I didn't know when it was happening," he protested. "I mean, it's hard. I don't know what you mean exactly." The CBC interview aired on January 29, 2018. On October 30, 2018, Peterson was interviewed by British GQ's Helen Lewis. Like Mesley, Lewis wanted to know why Peterson had posed with the Pepe flag. He said, "It was just like 15 seconds, and they," meaning the 2 supporters, "brought this flag. One of them had spoken at the event. They were doing it ironically. They unfurled the flag, and we took the picture." Defiantly, he added, "I made the decision that I made under the circumstances and took what was there into consideration." Now let's return to the claim he made to Wendy Mesley. "I didn't know when it was happening. I mean, it's hard. I don't know what you mean exactly." In January, Peterson did not realize he was posing with the flag or understand the implications of doing so, but in October, he did. Lewis then asked Peterson if he would have, quote, posed ironically with a hammer and sickle flag. After a 5-second pause, he replied, "I don't know, under the circumstances, what I would have done." Lewis pressed, "I just wonder if that's something that you regret now, that you wouldn't do again if you had the opportunity." After a pause lasting 10 seconds, Peterson said, "Well, I don't think it did me any good." And after another soundless 14 seconds, he added, I don't think I'll betray my former self." When Wendy Mesley asked Peterson a similar question, that is, if posing with the Pepe flag had been a mistake, he equivocated before answering with a firm no. The green Pepe flag is a bit like the green Kekistan flag, a far-right symbol modeled after a Nazi war ensign. On the Joe Rogan Experience, Peterson told his host that, as a gift, he had given his father, Walter Peterson, a Kekistan flag. When Joe Rogan asked his guest what had possessed him to do that, Peterson fought off a smile and said, "Because he's been following what's happening to me online." Given Canada's involvement in the Second World War, I have to wonder why Walter Peterson would have accepted from his son the gift of an imitation Nazi flag. And why would Peterson have spoken so casually about giving him one? If you're looking for examples of how Jordan Peterson is warning of totalitarian ideologies like Nazism, I've just provided some. He does it by signaling to the far right that he's their man, but that he will not go to them, they must come to him. For instance, he has said that he doesn't like their anti-Semitism. True, he prefers his own. Allow me to provide further examples of Peterson's unique public warning. To do so, we'll need to return to the interview with British GQ in which Helen Lewis asked the University of Toronto lecturer, possibly in jest, if he was, quote, in the allure of fascistic ideologies. Here's how he answered. I will break up his speech with some of his statements from his best-selling book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. Peterson, oh, I noticed the allure. Lewis, and then, what do you do with that? Peterson, work to live such that there's no temptation in that, which is what I recommend for everyone else. From 12 Rules, Lucifer's primal temptation. Lucifer is the spirit of totalitarianism, the temptation of totalitarian certainty. Peterson continues, if you see any temptation in that, you should straighten yourself up real quick. Rule 1 from 12 Rules for Life is stand up straight with your shoulders back. So that's what I've done for decades. From 12 Rules, over the previous decades, I had read more than my share of dark books about the 20th century, focusing particularly on Nazi Germany. Peterson continues, of course, you have to see the allure in that. If you don't see the allure in it, you're a fool, just like if you don't see the allure in the radical leftist ideas. They're dangerously alluring. Observe how he associates liberals with danger. This will be important later. You know, I mean, it'd be lovely if there was a strong man who could solve all our problems and those who deserved it got exactly what was coming to them. Ah, yes, a strong man who could solve all our problems. What kind of problems? Who causes these problems? What type of strong man? Who is the strong man? Wasn't there a strong man in the 1930s and 40s who tried to solve all of Nazi Germany's problems? Jordan Peterson has been talking about solving problems for years. Adolf Hitler spoke about solving the Jewish problem for years. Here are some quotes from Peterson and Hitler on problem solving. Hitler, public attention with other problems. Peterson, public attention when the far worse problems. Hitler, it is not merely a case of solving a single problem, but the removal of a whole series of evils. He means non-Aryan evils, chiefly the Jews. Peterson, it is the problem of evil. There is also the problem of evil to consider. Hitler, it is fundamental to the understanding of the whole problem. Peterson, there is another fundamental problem. Hitler, the decisive fundamental problem. Peterson, the fundamental problem. Fundamental moral problems. Hitler, we resolved these problems which were earlier held to defy resolution. Peterson, after these most fundamental issues have been resolved, that the means of resolution. Hitler, a better and more profound thinker on fundamental problems. Peterson, here's the fundamental problem. Group identity can be fractionated right down to the level of the individual. Hitler, the liberty of the individual ends where it starts to harm the interests of the collective. Peterson, the individual identifies with the tribe, with the collective, which is designed to deal with threat. The normal individual solves his problem by joining a group. The group comprises the most effective currently imaginable solution to the problem. So, for Peterson, groups are bad, and individualism good, but the normal individual should join a group in order to, quote, solve his problem, because groups, or tribes, offer a, quote, solution to the problem. To get a better sense of which type of problem the psychologist is talking about, and which problem-solving group is optimal, let's examine a Maps of Meaning lecture from Harvard, 1996, in which Peterson's stated aim was for his students to understand the motivations behind the Holocaust. Why is it that you would say you're a neo-Nazi? That's a good example. To say that you're a neo-Nazi is kind of a strange thing to say, because if you're a neo-Nazi, You're the same as all the other neo-Nazis. So the you has almost disappeared. You surround yourself with a whole group of people who think exactly like you, so there's no threat within the group whatsoever. But the other thing that's interesting about being a neo-Nazi is that, like, you're in it, theoretically, at least as far as you're concerned, because that's the best group to be a part of. So you're very moral and upright as a consequence of your identification. Note how Peterson says individuals who identify as neo-Nazis are moral and upright, and be aware that Hitler told his individuals that Aryans were decent and upright. Now, let's return to Peterson and Hitler talking about problems that require solutions. Peterson, the problem itself. Hitler, the problem presents itself. Peterson, the problem of life that presented itself to Schopenhauer. Hitler, Schopenhauer once spoke of the Jew as the great master of lies. Along with Nietzsche and Kant, Schopenhauer was one of Hitler's favorite philosophers. He read Schopenhauer when he was a dispatch runner in World War I, the loss of which he blamed on the Jews. When Peterson talks about the problem of life that presented itself to Schopenhauer, he's referring to the Jewish problem. When he posed, grinning, with the Pepe flag, he was sporting a t-shirt with the image of Alexander Solzhenitsyn. In the book 200 Years Together, which is a history of Jews and White Russians living alongside one another, Solzhenitsyn criticizes the Jews, saying the Communist Party was top-heavy with Jews. During the Soviet genocides, 2/3 of the secret police were Jewish, and Jews in labor camps received preferential treatment. Peterson says in 12 Rules that as a prisoner in a Soviet gulag, Solzhenitsyn ruminated on the causes of, quote, the catastrophe of his life, with the upshot being that he finally, quote, opened his eyes and became a, quote, defender of the truth. Hitler often associated the Jews with the notion of catastrophe and said, quote, this present struggle will open the eyes of others on the Jewish question. Peterson has spoken of the Jewish question in relation to Jews and their IQ, and urges his followers to, quote, accept the terrible responsibility of life with eyes wide open. In 12 Rules, Peterson quotes Solzhenitsyn to say, the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human. Only he doesn't use quotation marks or supply a source. Solzhenitsyn says this in the Gulag Archipelago, a book Peterson endorses. However, he repeats the phrase in 200 Years Together during a tirade about the Jews. He says, the line of good and evil cuts through the heart of every human, and then, 4 sentences later, just like the Bolsheviks, Jewish individuals are overrepresented in the ownership and senior staffing of the US news media. And Peterson, on TV Ontario, has said Jews are overrepresented in positions of power and authority. He has also said, in reference to the Jews, there's also overrepresentation in political movements, including radical political movements. Incredibly, Solzhenitsyn also claims that the Holodomor, the Soviet-orchestrated Ukraine famine that Peterson loves to talk about, was largely the result of Jewish revenge. David Duke, Nazi, Holocaust denier, and former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, claimed that Solzhenitsyn's criticisms in 200 Years Together indicated that the Jews used communism to overpower Christians. David Duke has said that Dr. Joseph Mengele, the SS officer who happily sent some 400,000 people to their deaths at Auschwitz, was a medical genius. He has also defended a Canadian Nazi named Ernst Zundel, who Peterson defended during a talk in Oslo in which he cracked jokes about Jews being gassed. I mean, are there any jokes funnier than ones about the final solution? Hitler, problems await their solution. Peterson, if the problem has a solution. Hitler, the problem called for a solution. Peterson, the problem and its solution. Hitler, solution of one of the most burning problems. Peterson, profound solution to a personal problem. Hitler, solution to this problem, the solution of a problem. Peterson, solution to this problem, a solution to a complex problem. Hitler, solution to the problem, solution to the problems. Peterson, solution to the problem, solution to the problems. Hitler, to solve a problem, to solve the problems. Peterson, to solve a problem, to solve the problems. Hitler, to resolve these problems. Peterson, to resolve her problems. Hitler, to solve the problems of the world. Peterson, the world is full of unresolved problems. Hitler, we face the last great problem that must be resolved. Peterson, a potential solution to the problems I was facing. Hitler, faced with problems which can be solved. Peterson, the problems I now faced had been solved. Hitler, the problem of the sustenance of the German Volk had not been solved. Peterson, a problem we haven't yet solved. Hitler, problems which cannot be resolved through war. Peterson, solution to the problem of war. Hitler, did not bring the solution of the problems. Peterson, could not solve even simple real-world problems. Hitler, two problems remain to be solved. Peterson, neither one of those problems is going to be solved. Hitler, we Germans solve our own problems. Peterson, we solve the problem. Hitler, our Volk must and will succeed in solving this problem. Peterson, until we have solved the problem of our own. Hitler, this is the problem which must be solved. Peterson, a problem that must be solved. Hitler, any problem can be solved. Peterson, citing Kuhn, the problems that can be solved. Hitler, all problems can be solved. Peterson, all problems have been solved. Hitler, a real solution for a real problem. Peterson, to solve a real problem. Hitler, peaceful solution of this problem, peaceful resolution to the remaining problems. Peterson, creative solution to problems which currently remain unsolved. Hitler, solution to the most serious problem, eternal problems. Peterson, solution to the ever-recurring problem. Hitler, we managed to solve this problem for good. Peterson, solve the problem for everyone. Hitler, they hinder rather than advance the solution to the problem. Peterson, you come to the discussion with a solution instead of just a problem. Hitler, resolution of problems, international jury in particular. Peterson, the solutions to your particular problems. Hitler, you cannot solve these problems in the same old way. It's absolutely essential that new ways be found. Peterson, solutions to old problems cause new problems. Every solution merely provides a new breeding place for a host of new problems. Hitler, I recognize the danger lurking. By lurking, he means the lurking Jews. Peterson, there are other problems lurking in the radical Marxist disciplines. For example, Karl Marx, Jacques Derrida, and Theodor Adorno, all of whom Peterson disparages, all of whom were Jewish. Hitler, confronted not only with the problem, Peterson confronted the most serious existential problem. Hitler, solutions to the problems existing. I have solved a problem which henceforth no longer exists. Peterson, that's what happens to problems that are solved, and after the solution was implemented, even the fact that such problems had ever existed disappeared from view. Hitler, finding a way for the solution. Peterson, a step on the way to solution. Hitler, the solution of his problems. Peterson, the third solution to his existential problem. Hitler, the third attempt, is a legislative solution to the problem which would have to be assigned to the National Socialist Party for a final solution. We will continue talking about the Jewish problem in Dr. Jordan Peterson, Warning of Nazism, Part 2. Be sure to leave a comment, subscribe, and like. Thank you.